So we'll start off with just tell me your name, full name, and I work at BorgWarner for whatever years. And when I ask you some questions, try and give me a little bit of a pause before you answer. And what we'll do is we use that for editing.
Okay.
Maybe put a little bit of the question, like if I say, "What is your name?" You'll say, "My name is."
Okay.
So,
Go ahead and start.
go ahead.
My name is William B. McIntosh, Sr., formerly an employee at BorgWarner Automotive. Worked there 25 years, 8 months. No longer employed there. They closed the plant. I'm trying to.
You can look at me too.
Okay. And
Okay.
what do you? Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about when you first started there. How old you were and how excited you were to get it.
At that time, when I first got on at BorgWarner, I was coming off of a year and a half of unemployment. I was currently in 78 at Chevrolet, the Muncie plant, which is also closed now. Actually, they done leveled it. But anyway, I was working there and got laid off. Went a year and a half trying to wait out and be placed somewhere else in General Motors. Well, my recall rights ran out, so in that time I was waiting, a friend of my mom's was a supervisor at BorgWarner at the time, heard that I was unemployed and got me an application. So I got on in 1983. I was 25 at the time, and very happy. I was very happy to get on. I was talking to my grandmother at the time, and I was trying to really make my decision. I knew I needed a job. I hadn't worked in a year and a half. I had 2 young kids at the time, brand new home I had just purchased, and didn't know what to do. I mean, I went through a period of extended unemployment. All of that had ran out. And so working with the trustees, it helped keep my utilities running and keep a little payment on the home to keep me from losing it. So then when I was talking to my grandmother about going to BorgWarner, I was like, first thing came to my mind was they lay off a lot, which at that time they did. She said, don't matter. If they lay you off, they always call you back. They always call you back. So with her saying that, I just went on, made up my mind to accept the application and put it in, and I got hired. And it was a lot different working at BorgWarner than it was at GM. There was a few things that I had to get used to. It was kind of the opposite. The harder jobs at GM is the assembly lines and stuff. Everybody wanted to be on a machine because it paid more at GM. And when I got to BorgWarner, I found out that everybody wanted to get off the machines because the assembly lines paid more. So it was a little different. But I was able to fit in, having that experience at Chevy, and started working there. And actually, I ended up being in the assembly because of my experience at Chevy, which, a lot of people was like, wow, how'd you end up in the high-paying job, So I thought that was real cool. But, I worked there, and I was able to keep my home and raise my children. It's a good paying job. I mean, they are hard to find now. Yes, I do kind of miss that. But I don't know. You just have to take it, the good with the bad, But it's been a very, very blessed 25 years. I've been able to do a lot of things, raise my kids, as I said before, see that they got to go to college. I got my youngest one now. I have 4 children. I got my youngest one now. He'll be a senior come this year. I'm wanting to see him get to college, but the Lord opened the door for me back then, 25 years ago, and I know He's going to open another door for me. So we have that faith in our family that God will provide. So.
Tell me a little bit about, because I know back in the day, getting those kind of factory jobs we've heard was just as easy as walking across the street to another factory. Way back when, and maybe even that was kind of what I want to say. kind of said something and defined you? Like I got in at GM, or I got in at BorgWarner, and in the community, it defined who you were.
Yes, to your point, yes. Back in those days, I would say late '60s, early '70s, on through the '70s. It was like that. It was to the point that you could work at a plant of a Broderick's that we used to have, or Chevrolet, or BorgWarner, Warner Gear at that time, and you could get laid off and walk across the street or down the corner or 3 blocks over or what have you, and pick up another job. But to get those manufacturing jobs in those days was just, that just put you at the top of the heap. I mean, as far as in the community, what you were able to provide for your family, the lifestyle you were able to live, those were great paying jobs at that time. And it was just plentiful in Muncie alone. I can't speak for the nation, but in Muncie alone, to have those different factories to go to, you had your choice of jobs. I mean, it was just there. I mean, it was nice to have. And to get on at GM or Warner Gear, those were the 2 main paying jobs at that time, and ended up being that way throughout, because unless you had a degree in some type of field and it raised your pay or what have you, those were good paying jobs, great paying jobs.
Okay. Try not to worry too much about the camera over
Okay.
here, just like you and I are talking.
Okay.
Let's see. Tell me a little bit about your background with your father retired from GM, your grandfather was first president at the Indiana Steel, so you kind of come from a lineage
Right.
of factory workers and some people that served in the union.
Right.
You can start with your grandfather.
Yes, my grandfather, hardworking man, 92 years old. He's working at Indiana Steel and Wire, which is another manufacturing plant now that's been closed. I mean, it's been closed, but he put 34 years in. He was the first African-American president of his local union. I can't give you the union number because I can't remember, but I remember him telling me about it. He's a hardworking man. I mean, he used to work in that hot steel mill, man, and he'd come home and then he'd go work a construction job on the side, and he had a good friend of his that had a construction business. He would help lay foundations and build homes and parts of that, but always worked, and always worked. The thing I got from my grandfather was to be a hard worker, and it always paid off. He was able to buy a home and pay it off real quick, and then upgrade to a better home and pay it off, and then he ended up building a brand new home, and in the early '60s. And I just always admired him when it came to hard work and his dedication to the union. And I learned it at an early age. Even when my grandfather was going through that, I was probably 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. But my dad was starting in the UAW himself. He first started at Ball Brothers, which is not UAW, but it is a manufacturing of jars factory. Started at Ball Brothers, and then he got on at Warner Gear. He worked at Warner Gear for maybe 2 or 3 years, my father, and during that time they was doing the layoff, call you back, layoff, call you back, and finally he ended up getting in at GM and at the Chevy plant, and he did 31 years at Chevy. He ended up having to transfer to Marion to the Fisher Guy GM plant because of the big layoff that I was a part of in 78 or 80, I'm sorry, in 80. And so he ended up going with his seniority to Marion, and he finished his years in Marion. But here I come out of high school, maybe a year, my first year out, I ended up at Marhofer, which is a meat packing factory. And I worked a year there, and then they closed it. That's like, man, every time I go to a plant, they're closing them. And now that I think back So anyway, they closed there. So now I'm trying to get into Ivy Tech. And lo and behold, I get on through my our deacon at our church at the time. I was 19. He was a supervisor out there at GM plant. He got me an application. I got on out there. First thing my dad tells me, he's really concerned about how these manufacturing factories are, and that you never know what's going to happen with them with layoffs and everything. He wanted me to get into their apprentice program right then and get a trade. Well, you know, parents don't know how us young people are. You know, we feel like we know everything. They don't know it. And so I was tell him I wasn't really wanting to go to school. I'm making $12 an hour in 1978, and that was really good money. I mean, Blue Cross Blue Shield, health care, insurance. So school was the furthest thing from my mind. Biggest mistake I ever made. But, you know, that time, you know, here or there now. So, but yeah, he wanted me to go to school, and he stayed on me about it. Then he finally gave up because I wasn't doing it. And 3 years later, I got laid off. I had that apprenticeship program finished if I had went on and went, but, you know. So anyhow, I get laid off, and I end up at BorgWarner. But he's always been UAW. So I really come from a lineage of UAW, you know, workers, and being a part of a union. It's really all I know. I mean, if you really look at it, I worked in a couple of restaurants prior to graduation of high school, you know, the little summer jobs you get, stuff like that. But being a part of a union, I always felt like I had something to say or someone to speak for me when it came to my concerns. And that's basically what unions are for. They really established them.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. They really established them to give workers a voice at the table. A lot of people have the misconception now, today's unions, of being corrupted, you know, just causing the wages to be so high, and employers can't afford them, you know, and all like that. But actually, it really was established to make a safe environment for you to work at, to give you a voice at the table with the employer when it came to workers' rights. That's what UAW was about. That's what unions are about. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm giving him signals for shots, so
oh, okay.
Don't pay attention when I something like that.
Sorry.
Tell me a little bit about, because I grew up in UAW home,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I guess the family, the sense of family, and how you know, being in your grandfather's home, you know, what that meant, and you know, whether it was the picnics or the support, you know, if there was a strike going on, and the food that people would bring to people's houses, and I guess that sense of family, you know, outside of work because of the union. You know, if you have any memories or any stories that come to mind about something maybe during a strike, or being a kid and going to any of the union picnics. I don't know if your grandfather's company had some or something like that. Because that definitely shaped your view and your, I guess, attitude and stuff towards you know, this community within the union. Do you have any memories or anything that comes to mind, kind of?
Yeah. The thing that I remember mostly, and when it comes to UAW, union, I'll put it union, I keep saying UAW, but there's all kind of unions. Coming up young, we used to go to the annual Labor Day union picnics. The first thing came to mind was when you're at these picnics, it seemed like a big congregation or church, if I can kind of relate to that to get you to understand the feeling of it. And when I started, I remember trying to ask my grandfather about, well, he called me brother, or why is he calling you brother, you know? And my grandfather said, I'll explain it to you. But it's just the way that unions are. They really have this bind, especially back then, of this brother-sister bind, that we are all one big family. And during strikes, I remember stories of families kind of getting together, and they kind of help each other out when it came, okay, if you needed sugar or whatever, they had the sugar, the other family had the sugar. They might have needed potatoes, and then this family would have the potatoes. I mean, they kind of looked after each other when they were real close. I mean, you kind of get those kind of friendships. You know, you work side by side with someone for years, I mean, every day. You can't help but get close one way or the other. I mean, you're going to start having conversations of what's going on in your life and what's going on in their life, and you know what my son did today, or my daughter's getting ready to do this, or you know, you even talk about your grandparents. I remember talking about my grandfather a lot to some of my workers, and what he's dealing with now and in his old age, as far as what they call that, Alzheimer's and stuff like that. And so people kind of grew with me over the years working side by side, from, man, you know, that was your grandfather, the one that used to have 2 jobs and working hard every day. I said, yeah, that's the one. I said, now it's kind of hard. His mind goes here and goes there, you know. So you get kind of close to people, and it's a sad thing when a plant closes or a business closes like that, especially when it's abruptly. It's like, I don't know, you're losing a family member almost. Not because they're dead, but it's just the fact that camaraderie, that communication, unless you really try to keep it alive, you know, in which there's a few of us, we're going to make sure that we stay in contact with each other and stay friends, and go to breakfast or lunch or something like that. But I just remember how, with the picnics and the organizations that I've been going to, especially when I was young coming up, it's just how really makes you feel like a big family. I just could never get over that. It was one of the things that I thought, I knew that somebody had my back, in other words, you know, not in a bad way or anything like that, but I can go to this union brother or sister and say, hey, you know, such happened to me. They happen to know somebody that knows somebody, or they just happen to on the side have a business or something that I know I can get help through them. I mean, it's just people that you know you can count on when times get tough. That's what I learned about unions.
In that extended family, did you have any childhood friends who, because you're born and raised here,
Correct.
You guys grew up, and maybe their family was in the union, and you both ended up working at Borg or GM or something like that? Some childhood friends?
Oh yes, oh yes. A very good close friend of mine right now. He has 27 years in there, named Ron Wilson. We went from junior high on up. I mean, we've been best friends. I mean, he's dating my sister right now. He had his sister is a retiree from GM. So yeah, you do end up having some friends that you grew up with, and both families are involved in unions, and it kind of makes it nice when you have the big organizations where they have the picnics and everything, and then everybody comes, and it's like, wow, you know, you're really seeing family outside of the union, but you're seeing somebody that you grew up with too. I mean, you already consider family, so it just impacts it that much more, I think. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Tell me a little bit about, we'll go back in history a little bit and talk about, start with the 06 vote. That some people, the plant says that was their kind of decision to, you know, close, and there was a unanimous vote not to reopen the contracts, but there were some reasons you guys voted for that. So let's talk a little bit about the 06 vote, and just start off saying, back in 2006, there was a significant vote.
Okay. Back in 2006, there was a significant vote about opening up the contract. In 2005, we had a new contract. We had to opened up, we had to renegotiate a new contract because the other contract had stopped in '05. And we went in negotiations, and it was tough. We thought we might have to strike, but we didn't. But what we did do in '05, we gave up our cost of living, we gave up our profit sharing, we gave up our year-end bonus, our prescripts went up, and we paid a higher premium on our health care. All of that concessions went into that 2005 contract. Well, lo and behold, BorgWarner evidently didn't think they got enough. It was about 15 months later in 2006, they wanted to reopen the contract. And the sad thing about that is, in the media, in the community, Muncie community is getting it from the newspaper that in '06 they wanted to open the contract, and everybody took a vote to say no, and that's why they want to close it. And that's far from the truth, because we know for a fact that BorgWarner or any major company doesn't make decisions on a whim that quick. If they was going to close it, that decision was made 10, maybe 5 or 10, 15 years prior to that. My personal feeling is that they wanted to reopen to maybe get it into a disagreement, maybe, or reach an impasse to where we would have to strike, and then we're already out of there, we get nothing. That's just my personal opinion. But they wanted to reopen the contract in '06. We thinking that what else is there to give? We gave you everything. So that's why you had a unanimous decision not to open the contract, because we felt that we gave them enough. For them to twist that, or who's ever twisting it, company or the newspaper, we don't know, but who's ever twisting that to make it look like that vote decided to close the plant is far from the truth. Very much so. But you just have to think about it. I mean, when you give up your bonuses and your cost of living alone, I mean, the way we're talking in '06 here, I mean '05, and since '05, over the last 4 years, gas prices have been everything's been sky high. So if we retained the cost of living, our wages would have went up, because of that. But we never had a wage increase since '89. So we always relied on the cost of living as far as getting us those increases. So we gave up a lot. We gave up, when we did the figuring, because I ended up being on the committee, we ended up figuring that it was $12.5 million from '05 to '09 per year. $12.5 million. So actually, to me, this personal again, I felt we financed our closing, or we helped it anyway. Over $50 million they saved in our concessions alone. So for them to say that we were being selfish and didn't want to open the contract, and then they say, well, we're going to close the plant, that's not true. I don't understand why they get that, but that's not true.
Okay. Let's go back to one. Since you kind of brought up '89, let's talk a little bit about that strike. That was tell me how long that strike was, what it was like, what it was about, and seemed to be a significant point in the timeline of this.
Yes, in '89. Yeah, in '89 was my first time. I used to hear about strikes from my grandfather and even from my dad, But in '89, I had been there 6 years. Never had a strike, never been laid off. But at this point in time, in '89, we felt that we had to go on strike. It was over the healthcare issue. And I remember very well, because I was working the afternoon shift. Came midnight that night, September, but I can't give you the date, but it was in 1989 of September. And I remember the committee coming down the aisles and telling everybody, let's go, we're out. And I said, oh man, fine, a strike. I've never been through a strike. So we end up walking out. You drop everything you're doing, you get your stuff and you go on and you walk out. Well, automatically, the union leadership has it already set up for your strike posts for where you're gonna, work your posts on the strike. And they already had the first shift already on right at midnight. And it was just awesome. So I come out of the plant, I remember it, that's like it was yesterday. I come out of the plant at night, get in my car, and we drive down to it ended up being an empty bank lot now.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's the first Friday of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 11 o'clock.
We're to start rolling. All right. So yeah, we'll just pick up kind of when they came down and told you to start walking out.
Okay.
You had to go to your stations.
Yeah, I was working the afternoon shift in '89 of September, and I remember the committee coming down the aisles of the plant and telling us it's time to go. We're out. We're on strike. And I'm like, wow, it finally happened. I mean, not that I was looking for it to happen, but you hear the stories of strikes, but you think that was just the old days and how they had to get things done. You didn't think they'd have to do it in the 80s anyway. But yeah, I ended up walking out. We had to drop what we were doing and we walked out. And I come out and I go get my car. We pull out of the parking lot and go down the street where there was an empty parking lot where this bank used to be. And we park and then we all walked back down and we had to stand across the street because you're not allowed to stand on the property. So we stood across the street and I just watched it, and I was like, wow. They set up the picket posts where it wasn't allowed no scabs to come in and stuff like that. It was really awesome. I kind of went back to the stories that I've been told, and I'm thinking now I'm actually living this. It wasn't as violent as it was back then, because when you went on strike back then, it was like companies were trying to bring people in, and that wasn't going to happen. They had baseball bats or what have you, but verbally it was just as bad, though. I mean, they didn't want to bring anybody. We didn't want anybody going in. So I ended up on the day shift, and there's so many of us that you only had to work that one day, 4 hours, whatever that shift you was assigned. But it was just really different to stand out there, and we went out because of the health care insurance then. Now that when I look back on that, we didn't realize that it was going to become an issue down the road. And that's what I meant by when I say that these companies don't do anything at the last minute. They do things 10 to 15 years in advance. They have a game plan. So for plants to just abruptly close, the only way I can see that happening is if they actually are bankrupt and broke and they can't, that's just obvious. But just to decide to close because you want to close, now you was working on this. So anyway, we were out, actually ended up being a total of 52 days. And the sad part about it is we went back in, we never gained anything. What made it so bad was that when you're on strike, you're not entitled to unemployment. So your checks you're not working. So what you're down to is strike pay. And at this time, back in '89, I think it's up to 100 now, but back in '89, it was $50 a week. So the committee's in there aggressively negotiating, trying to get this healthcare issue straightened out. Well, you get tons and tons of calls every day. Man, we need to get back in there. I can't buy no food. I need to pay this. I need to pay that, and it can really be very stressful. Now that I've been through this closing, I can understand how the committee would give in, and so that's what happened. The committee just finally said, okay, it's just overwhelming majority wanting us to go back in, and that's what we did. And never did actually get the issue resolved. I mean, and we were just trying to get better health care at that time, but it never established. So we had to go back to the old health care that we had at that time. So that ended the strike right then, 52 days.
How's that feel going back in after your first strike? What were your thoughts and feelings when you walked back in to go to work?
It was kind of on returning into the plant once the strike was over. You kind of had mixed feelings. I mean, you were glad to get back to work because that meant a paycheck. But at the same time, the circumstances that we went in under, it was kind of like, man, we should have just, I know it was tough out there, but we should have just held on, because now we have established a fear, so to speak, to the company, as far as they're looking at it like, well, hey, anytime they want to try to throw a strike, we'll just tell them, go ahead, because you ain't gonna be out there that long. That's what I felt. I felt like we gave in too quick. Most of your GM strikes are national, and so therefore they can do more damage by being out like that. But when you just one isolated plant like that, it depends on how heavy the production is in that plant, if your strike is going to be effective. And at that time, they were bringing in supervisors they were flattening the tires on the buses because they were trying to bring those people in. But I just think that if we'd have rode it a little longer, we'd have came out on top. But like I said, to go back in, it felt good now that you were going to get a paycheck and be able to provide food and stuff and get caught up on your bills, that kind of thing. But it was like a double-edged sword to me. I thought that was the downside. That was the downturn of our local at that time in '89, and I don't think we've been the same since.
Okay, let's go into two. Tell me a little bit about what year was it that we talked about the transmission line that went to Mexico? Was it 91?
91 or 92? I want to say 91. It wasn't long after the strike. They came out and announced that they were taking the manual transmission to Mexico, which was really, really a big moneymaker for us. The manual transmission went into the Ford Mustang, and it was very popular. Everybody loves the Ford Mustang, and it was a moneymaker. When they did that, it cost us about 800 jobs, and that's counting salary and hourly. And that's, like I said, I don't think our local was ever the same after the '89 strike, because all of this stuff started progressing after that. And I think that's when they started getting themselves ready to either close the plant or downsize it to just an assembly plant. Because at this point in time, we were cutting gears and we were doing all kind of grinding work. So we had a lot of machinery type work, which created a lot of more jobs. But when you just get down to an assembly line plant where you just assemble stuff, you have everything brought in. So I'm thinking they were, at that time, when they made up their mind to either downsize or they were getting ready to go ahead and close the plant in the future. But it was very devastating for the community. I mean, we lost 800 jobs, and that was the first time that I was aware of the TRA situation where you're allowed to go to school and extended unemployment, that kind of thing. But it was tough. I mean, to see that big of a chunk of our work leave like that and then have that massive layoff. At that time, we were over 2,000 workers, and that knocked us down to about 1,100 after that.
Tell me a little bit about how that feels. You weren't laid off then, right?
Correct.
And maybe some friends, family, or, and you can even maybe tie in some of your thoughts and feelings, when people lost their jobs at GM. And, to me, I think I would kind of have this feeling, because I was in the military, of, why didn't it happen to me? I'm lucky, but these people over here weren't so lucky and they're suffering, in the community. How's that kind of make you feel as you're one of the people that stays with the job when there's a big layoff like that? Or if you knew some friends and that really kind of maybe bothered you a little bit?
When I did have some friends, I had some friends that were laid off during that big, massive layoff we had of 800 workers. And you feel for them. I mean, what are they going to do? Especially when you got people that have just, and I've been there, but I was able to get back in another job. But when you just purchased a home or an automobile or what have you, you got young kids, you just got married, that kind of thing. I had a couple of friends that I was very, very concerned about. How are they going to be able to deal with that? Because this layoff was a permanent layoff. It wasn't like they were actually going to try to call any people back or say indefinite, but it was almost like a permanent layoff. So it makes you feel real sad. I don't try to look at it to where I feel guilty that it didn't happen to me. I've always felt, from day one, I've always felt that my grandmother, my mom, they always believed in prayer, and I always felt that I had a covering, so to speak, in our faith, in our family, to where things like that happen, and it doesn't seem like it happened to me. That it's just that I'm under that covering. I don't know how else to explain that, but that's just the way I feel. I've always felt that way. I worked out there 25 years and never got laid off, not one time. When I went to that plant, remember I told you I had that conversation with my grandmother, and she was like, I told her they had a reputation of lay it off, call you back, lay it off, call you back. She said, don't worry about it, just, you'll still have a good job, they won't call you back, so I went. But for 25 years, I never got laid off. The time I get laid off is when they close the plant. But people after me that got hired, there's a lot of people my wife was one of them, that got hired in '88. Well, they would be on the bubble, get called back, get laid off, called back. So I really feel for people that go through that. But I kept contact with a couple of friends of mine that have, and in one case, it was the best thing that ever happened for them. They were able to move on and get a better job by going to school. In another case, it was like they gave up on life, kind of, hit rock bottom, basically, just gave up. So it's very, 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 very mixed emotions as far as being sad for them. But then again, you don't want to be too sad if people do take advantage and move on with their lives. And I do believe that things happen for a reason. I really do. There's people, like I said, I had a couple of friends. I know I have one for sure that was able to really turn their life around. It was the best thing that happened to him. Then the other one, he just seemed like he just let it happen to him and kept feeling sorry for himself and kind of gave up a little bit. But it's a sad situation for anybody to lose their job. I don't care if it's meant to be or not meant to be. It's just a sad feeling.
Tell me, we're going to talk a little bit about the closing now. We'll start off kind of like, since you knew this was kind of coming for a while, what kind of feelings you had leaving the plant that last day, and your thoughts, and you can lead into what this means, kind of the Muncie's lost so many factory jobs, and here's another big factory that's no longer, it's been around here for 100 years. Tell me a little bit about, we'll start off with that last day when I was leaving work and coming home.
The last day, that last day was really a bummer. I mean, it was really, really down. I mean, I thought that I had did all the scenarios in my head, though, how this is going to feel. I kind of get myself ready, but there's no way. When it finally came down to it that I was leaving that plant for the last time, it was an ugly feeling. A lot of it was like you were walking out on your family. I mean, to be able to explain how close you were as friends and stuff, co-workers and things like that. You felt like you were just never going to see these people again. What am I going to do? It's very sad. I was emotional. Now it's reality. You can think about it all you want in your head, but when it actually happens, it's a whole nother ball game. I mean, man, I would have been no good that day, and that's what I was trying to explain to you, that I didn't know what to say. I just let it happen. I kind of let my emotions go through it as far as feeling it, and you know, you had people saying certain things that day that was very emotional. There were some that were just sad. I mean, you feel for them. You know, they don't know what they're going to do. They're on that spot where they're too old to go to school, but yet they still need a job. And Muncie in itself, with BorgWarner closing the way it has, that was our last major manufacturer company, to where you take away 700 jobs now that was feeding the community the way it was. I mean, you know, they try to make this scenario up or equation that for every one job from BorgWarner created 4 or 5 to 10 jobs in the community, or it would spread like that. So yes, I think Muncie is going to be really, really, really hurting right now. I don't know what Muncie is going to be able to do to bounce back. I mean, you would have thought that Chamber of Commerce would kind of get ahead of this. They had 2 years or something to try to bring something back into this community. But it was very sad day to walk out of there. I've been very stressful over the last year of closing the plant. The things I've been going through with the union, with some of the workers. There's a lot of hostility. There was a lot of depression, basically. People just angry and didn't know how to, you didn't know how to accept it very well. I mean, some people did, some people didn't. Some people looked at it as just time to move on. I'm gonna have to do something else. Then there was other people that was like, we could have done something. We were just too lazy. It's our fault, that kind of thing. I was hearing a lot of that on that last day. So it kind of got me emotionally twisted there, where, I mean, like, wow, it's actually over. It was sad. It was a sad day.
Did you do anything special that day? Did you guys meet up anywhere outside, go to church or anything?
We did. There's 4 of us on the committee, and it's a sad thing as far as our committee is concerned, because we were so divided. But it was 4 of us on the committee that really kept our ties together. And as we all turned in our badges and our keys to our offices and everything, we got in our vehicles and we all had breakfast together, and went to the Sunshine Cafe, and a very long breakfast, because I mean, once we ate, we still wanted to talk and make plans for the future, to go fishing and golfing, that kind of stuff. But then we kind of reflected on what we all been through over the last year, especially in the negotiations of trying to get a severance package. But that was, if you want to say special, that was about the special that I did on that day, on that last day. At least once I got out. I mean, this was trying to get out of the plant on the last day, but once we did get out, yeah, we did go to breakfast, and it kind of calmed it a little bit. We were all able to bounce things off each other, of what such and such said, or what they heard, or what they felt. I mean, we were able to kind of talk through it, and kind of hugged each other once we departed, and so we're gonna stay in contact. But yeah, that's what we did, kind of special.
Okay. Tell me now. It's been a couple weeks. You got this 26-year routine. It's kind of over. And you're looking at some future plans, school or whatever. Tell me a little bit about how that, I mean, you're kind of still in the initial shock of it and not getting into anything new yet. Tell me about how that process is unfolding for you right now and your feelings. Going from getting up and driving in the same job every day and now trying to keep yourself a little busy here at home, yet enjoying the break right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's going to change.
Oh, yeah. Trying to get used to not doing the same thing for the last 26 years. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Right now, I'm in the early stages of it. This is actually my first full week of being out of there. I still can't sleep in. I'm getting up at 6:30, 7, I'm trying to sleep in, but it's just been real hard. It's kind of like when we used to have our summer shutdowns right now, so it hasn't really taken that effect, other than the fact that I still get calls from people asking questions on what we're going to do about certain union issues or how this buyout's supposed to go and stuff like that. It'll remind me or bring me back to reality that, hey, you don't have a job anymore. But I've just been trying to deprogram, sort of say, to get myself back to me, really me, to where now, what do I want to do, actually? So I'm just trying to take it easy, one day at a time right now, and trying to get the stress out of the way. I mean, it's going to be stressful now that I got to look for a job, but that's a different stress than what I've just been going through, and I'm not really trying to be negative about the way it closed and all like that, but it was very, very stressful. There was nights I didn't sleep well. To be the next day for a union meeting, I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't really want to see the next day come, because I didn't know what to expect from the people at the union meeting, because a lot of people didn't take it very well. So really, I've been kind of concentrating on just deprogramming myself and just calming down and trying to forget about what all I've been through over the last year and a half. Union officials, it's a little different than just going to work and coming home, going to work, coming home, because you have to deal with the legal parts of what's going on, and it's your job to make sure that you communicate it to the rest of the members, and it's your job to be able to answer the questions that the rest of the members have, or try to take care of some of the issues that they have, especially with retirees, healthcare, insurance issues, the ones that are laid off now, and some of the things they're having to deal with at work one on unemployment issues. I mean, it's, you name it, it's just been a chaos. So I'm just trying to deprogram and relax and take it one day at a time. UAW Local 287 was established in 1937. So being 2009, that is over 72 years. It's a lot of years for it to come to an end. I really hate it, but I can't do anything about it. Just being a part of it has been a big blessing. It's our local chapter. There's a lot of different locals throughout UAW, and we all kind of function about the same. But the thing about being 287 and being here in Muncie those many years makes me kind of proud that I think it has to be one of the oldest or longest running UAW locals. And to be elected president and being the last president of the local is an honor in itself also. Not to mention being in Muncie, Indiana, and the history of Local 287, to be the first African American president, I felt was a very, very good honor. Coming up in Muncie, if you go back 20, 30, 40 years, it would have never been heard of for an African American to have a that kind of a position, president of anything, let alone a UAW. So I really feel blessed and honored that my peers felt enough confidence in me to elect me president, being an African American in Muncie. And I hate to say it like that because it sounds like that I'm making Muncie a racist, but it's really been tough in this city. Not as bad as it used to be, but from my bringing up through the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, racism was real bad in Muncie. It's come a long way. It's come a long way. But it was really tough. I remember in junior high just trying to go to school and come home. You almost had to fight or run and, to keep from having riots and stuff like that. Actually, I was a freshman in Southside when they had the last race riot at the school, at any of the Muncie City schools. So lets you know what kind of I don't know how you put that, what kind of community that I was raised in. I can't speak for everybody else, but what I had to go through, and to become an African American president of a local, a long-standing local, I just feel like it's a great honor. It's special to me. It's something that no one can take from me, because I can say that with pride and with honor, with being blessed by it. It was a tough job at a time when you're talking about a plant closing. The thought come across my mind that they just throw me in there because nobody wants it now? Yes, a little bit, but still, I'm not going to take away that we needed somebody that would help us get through this time at a rough time. And it just, I felt like I was the one that could do it. I didn't know it was going to be as tough as it was, but I just thought that I could do it a good job at being president. I've always thought that I could be a good leader in the union. I've always thought that. I've started out in, in 1995, when I finally said, look, enough complaining. If you want it done, you need to get involved. Because a lot of us will just want to reap the benefits, but we don't want to put out the work. You get all these benefits from being, and that's true, But when the community turns around and says that you're getting these benefits and they're way out of proportion and stuff like that, well, some of that is true, some of it isn't. And I could be all day trying to break it down and explain how things get the way they do when it comes to unions. But I thought I wanted to get involved enough to where I would have a say in what's going on and try to understand the union. I wanted to be on the inside instead of being on the outside, even though I worked there. There's a lot of people that work there at BorgWarner and work at any of these other plants that have unions, but they're not involved in the union, so they're just like the rest of the community on the outside. So I wanted to get involved and be on the inside of understanding what unions were all about. And I started back in '95. I started as a sergeant of arms on the executive board. And I've been on the executive board ever since '95 till the day we closed. I started out as sergeant of arms, and then I moved up to vice president, and then eventually president. I was trying to get on as a committeeman, but like I said, I've always wanted to be involved in the union. So for us to close now, after 72 years of being Local 287, it is a sad day. But at the same time, I feel honored and blessed that I was a part of it.
Went through a little bit of that, so I'm trying to catch up with you here. It's good. I want you to just keep letting it go. Tell me a little bit about, you knew the end of this local. It's like you said, it's one of the longest running locals, and you knew the day was coming. It kind of came a little quicker than we all thought, and maybe you thought too, when the national was it that came down, took it over. So tell me a little bit about the closing of that, and maybe not only how you feel talking to some other people within the union, how they feel. Maybe you've talked to some retirees, about the end of this local here. What's that say for you guys who this was your identity for so long, and maybe the effects, because locals give scholarships and all this other stuff to the community. So we'll start with your feelings, as they came down and they were closing it, and you were prepared, and then what other people think, and then lead into the community.
When it finally came down to close down Local 287, there were some preparations that we had to do. The International let us know what we needed to do as far as getting our books together and stuff like that. Titles and things that if we owned anything. A lot of the members didn't understand that you're under a constitution, you're under an agreement. When you want to be a charter, which we were a charter, is what locals, when you come up with your identity number, you're a charter of this large organization as the UAW. A lot of people think that because you say UAW, it's automotive automatically, but not necessarily. There's other unions out there that they're building totally different stuff, but they're UAW. So anyway, when it comes down to closing, a lot of members felt like, why does the International get to do this? Why do they get to do that? We pay dues, and we should be able to do whatever we want to do. But there's this contract you sign with anything. And I try to explain that to a lot of the members, but when you're hurting, a lot of rational thinking doesn't come about. So, but you sign an agreement that you want to be a part of this charter. I mean, you're a charter, a part of this organization, and there's stipulations in that agreement. So, in what we call our Constitution, and the Constitution makes it clear, once you get down to less than 17 members of your charter, the International has the right, the executive board of the International has the right to just come in, take all assets, all liabilities, whatever you have becomes theirs. You agree to that when you signed on, when you join the organization. Yes, we pay dues. We pay them dues. We pay union dues. Certain percentage of it goes to the International. The other percentage goes to your local. And that's to help your local function and do the things they need to do. But talking to some of the people, man, it was like, there were some people you can talk to. That's a given, a natural. But there's a lot of them that just didn't understand it, didn't want to accept it. It's our money, we pay those dues, we've earned this, we've earned that, and didn't want to give up the union hall, didn't want to give up anything, basically. But we were under contract. I mean, that's just the way it is. We don't like it. Even with the retirees, they don't like it, but they've been through it over the years because they're retired 30 years or more. They know how it works. They're not saying that they're happy with it, but they know how it works. So they progress and accept it a lot better than for those who have never really got involved in the union, and then all of a sudden, bang, it's cut off, and that's it. So I just didn't realize that it would happen so fast when that last day we walked out on April 24th, and come Monday was 27th, maybe 27th, 28th. Anyway, 3 days later, the International was coming in, and we're going down to the courthouse, to the banks, and changing everything over. So it didn't take no time. I thought maybe, they'd kind of wait around a little bit. I mean, not wait, but give us a chance to, I don't know, kind of get through it a little bit, But no, I mean, as soon as it happened, If they'd have done it that Friday, if they could have done it on Saturday, they would have. So they had to wait Saturday and Sunday, and then that Monday morning, it happened. They took over everything. So, and that once that happens, there's no such thing as the Local 287 anymore. It's gone. It happens just that quick.
Tell me maybe your thoughts and opinion. Kind of this is kind of going outside yourself a little bit here for workers overall. You know, a lot of the loss of this union and the loss of a lot of unions around this country. You know, and the changing of, you know, these jobs, and even the ones that are going down to South Carolina, the non-union factories. How do you perceive this, and what do you think this means not only for Muncie to lose these union jobs and that connection and that, I guess, that voice we always go back to talking about for the future of workers, kind of, and maybe when you're getting ready to say your new job, you go into a non-union job, you know.
Yeah, I thought about how it's affecting the community or even the country with union jobs being shut down as they have. I think this started back in the early 80s under Reagan's administration, President Ronald Reagan, when he went after the air traffic controllers. And I think that, whether people want to admit it or not, Republicans really don't like unions, and therefore they've always went after them as far as getting that control away. They don't want people to be able to sit down and talk with these employers, because they want the employers to have that right to fire and hire, or, well, I'm tired of you, I don't like your attitude today, I just get somebody else, that kind of attitude. But I think it started back in the 80s on them trying to eliminate the unions. With our work going over to South Carolina, Seneca, it's a non-union shop. I think that they strategically waited long enough to keep us from going with that work, because we had that in our contract. And if they had took that work and started building anything in Seneca that was ours, we, by contract, had a right to go with it. No way that we're going to allow us to go there and work next to those workers who are making $12 an hour and we're making 22. Those people would go and say, hey, I want to make what they're making. So they don't want no union there. So to me, they kind of stalled to allow time to pass for our contract to run out before they fired up the work that's in Seneca now. It was, in the first place, it was supposed to have been going to Mexico. But with the gas prices and everything, the way the economy was at the time that they were trying to move it, they said that it wasn't economical for them to do it. It was going to cost them too much to do it. So now they want to move it to Seneca, which is not going out of country. I don't know how the politics works. You know, I just think there was games played this whole thing out in order to get it to Seneca. And they just done it that way, because I don't know. To me, they could have looked into that a little deeper than what they did. Talking about going to Mexico now, we're saying, oh, well, we can't afford to go to Mexico, so we're just going to send it to Seneca. Yeah, okay, whatever. But it started in the 80s, I think, and this country's took them 25, 26 years, but they finally getting there. Now, with the new jobs coming in, or some of the manufacturing jobs that are still here, but they're non-union, with this legislation that's coming down the pipe right now, with the Free Choice Act, that if that passes, that will give the unions a big shot in the arm, the unions that are still existing, a big shot in the arm, because now the employers will not be able to intimidate or retaliate against anybody that's interested in belonging to a union. Right now, they can kind of put the little fear in you, like, you bet not, I'm gonna fire you. Well, With that law goes into effect, the Free Choice Act, which allows people the free choice. If they want to go to a union, you can't hold that against them. They get to keep their job. So I think that would be a big shot in the arm for the unions, and I think you can see that circle where the unions will be going back to the 30s again, not in the way it started, but in a way of growing again. So that's what I'm seeing right now. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. So I'm not going to give up on the unions. I think they can make a comeback.
Do you think the Free Choice Act will pass?
I really do, with the president that we have and the majority in the House. I can really see it passing. I'm hoping. There's a lot of negativity ads out right now on radio, newspaper. That's why the newspapers are, even on CNN, they're all jumping on it to make it look like the unions are really messing up here, got wages all the way out of whack, and, with Chrysler going through what it's going through now, they're trying to make it look like the union's fault, and it's never been the union's fault. If these companies, GM, Chrysler, Ford, if they would really tell the truth, what's killing them is when they took the jobs through NAFTA out of the country. Who's going to buy the product? I don't understand that. It don't take a rocket science. What they did was they said, we're going to make as much money as we can right now, and we'll deal with that later. Well, now they're dealing with it. That's what it is. That's what I think.
Okay. Kind of along the same thought line about, your feelings for the future with unions and stuff like that, and how you saw back in the 80s, that they're really focusing in on that. How did that maybe change the way you guided and raised your children for a different future compared to how your father and grandfather raised you to, it's a different world. They can't go out and walk into a union job like you did. You maybe pushed them towards college and stuff like that. And this change of a generation shift, even within your own family.
Yes. I do have a positive outlook on unions turning around and coming back. But I'm being realistic. I saw it a few years ago that it's going to be a struggle in unions in this country, manufacturing jobs in this country. And what I've tried to instill in my kids, and I started with my oldest ones, and I try to let them know that you need to get an education, because the jobs that I got are going to become extinct. And I didn't even know that my job was going to be closing when I was saying this, but I had a feeling that they were going to be harder to come by. I could tell that much because of all the layoffs and the plants closing back in the early 90s. So I was trying to get my kids, and they listen. So, that they don't have to depend on a manufacturing job. Well, they got an education where if that job does close, hey, take my education and move to another place and get another job. And that's what I was trying to let them know. I kept using that, I guess, a scenario or analogy that, hey, if I go out right now, I can't go get a job nowhere else unless it's in a factory. I have no education as far as degrees. I mean, I'm high school, yeah, but I have no degrees. I can't go be an electrician. I can't go be a nurse. I can't go be a accountant. I have none of that. That's what I was trying to get them to understand, that if you have that paper, if you have that piece of paper, then you can always find work. I mean, you might not be in Muncie, and it might not be in Indianapolis, it might not be in Indiana, but you can always find work with that piece of paper. And that's what I try to get them to understand. And they're seeing it. My two oldest ones, they didn't get it at first, but now they see it. And then with my two youngest ones, yes, they definitely see it. So I feel a lot better with them knowing that they got their degrees.
Okay. We're almost done here. A few more questions. Tell me a little bit about, the union and workers have qualified for educational money. I forget what the term is called.
TRA and
Yeah.
TAA, right?
Yeah. Tell me that term and explain it, and the opportunity there, and how you see some people are going with it and some people just aren't. You know, they haven't gotten it, and they're probably going to get it in another month or two, but that's going to be too late.
Yes, the fortunate thing that we as Local 287 or the BorgWarner employees were blessed with, coming out with no jobs, that when BorgWarner announced that they were going to take our jobs out of the country, there's a government act that says that once that happens, TAA is available, and I really cannot remember the initials, what they stand for, but I can get them for you later. The TAA is the educational part of the government grant. The TRA is the financial part of it, which will extend your unemployment. So that is a blessing for us to take advantage of. There's some people that don't, just for whatever their reasons are, because there's been so many multiple reasons, but whatever their reasons are, they don't want to take advantage of that and go to school. Some feel like they're just too old, they don't feel like it. Some feel like that they definitely can find another job somewhere else. And then there's those who are just, so old that, going to school would be the last thing they would need to do. But there is a lot of them that are taking advantage of it. It's been tough on them. Listen to some of their stories on having to go back and sitting next to 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, and here they are 50, dealing with the algebra. That is definitely a requirement. It's been tough. I mean, they have to go to school full time and take advantage of it, but it's going to pay off. Excuse me, it's going to pay off. So I'm just glad to see there is some of them are taking advantage of it, and I plan to myself. And I just haven't decided on what field yet. It's in electronic or medical. I just haven't made up my mind on that part of it yet, because I just want to make sure I do make the right choice. But I do know I need to go to school. Being 51, I'm right in the middle, where you're young enough to keep working, but you're just up there in age to where, like going back to school might be a big challenge, so, but I'm gonna get ready for it, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do, because there's just no jobs out there right now. But that's basically what that is. It's when the company comes out and announces it's going to take your jobs out of the country. The government has set that up for not basic, but to get you a 2-year associate degree or technical degree, and help you with unemployment until you get that accomplished.
Okay. Two more questions. One we'll kind of just touch on a little bit. I guess, one thing I've been hearing about from some of the workers, maybe, and you could agree, the biggest loss in this might be your benefits. I mean, you guys got a package deal, and some of it, there was a controversy between selling it, and some of the older people that we talked to felt that they were sold out by the younger generation for this. And
Yes.
There's some people that they got 6 months, and then they got to start paying COBRA.
Yeah.
You have a wife who you said it sounds like you're going to be on her benefits, I think it was.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, without getting too much into the whole national crisis of benefits, just you personally, in this loss of probably the biggest factor in this job has been your benefits, I think.
Right. The thing about getting back to the union, having that voice at the table, you're able to sit down and talk to your employer. You're able to negotiate certain things, and then you're able to negotiate benefits. And I think benefit-wise, that's one of the real major things that I'm gonna miss. It's going to be the major thing that I have to make that adjustment for, because for so many years, over 25 years, I've had good health care. And it's a big issue in this country today. But to not be able to afford that now without the benefit of BorgWarner and the benefit of the UAW, it's going to be tough. I think I'm one of the blessed ones. My wife's got health care, so I will be able to piggyback off of hers. But there's a lot of them out there that done lost their job now. All they got is the 6 months insurance that the company agreed to give us in our closing package. And that's after that 6 months, they got to come out of pocket and come up and try to get the COBRA to kick in, which President Obama has helped us because with this new thing, it's a government plan called the HTCT. I think it's HCTC. There you go. Man, they got all these things. HCTC. It's a healthcare something. But anyway, I'm bad with names. I really apologize. But anyway, it's going to help pay your premiums on the COBRA. And it was supposed to be 65%. President Obama has bumped it up to 80% now. So, but that's just temporarily. I mean, people still going to have to come up with a way to have health care. So I think benefits are the main thing that people don't realize. They take it for granted when you go to work and you're part of a union. You just take it for granted and not realize that, man, I mean, once it's gone, it's like, wow, I really had it made and didn't understand that. You know, you just take it for granted. To be able to take your kids and go to the doctor and get their physicals and shots and eyeglasses, dental, you know, all of that you just take for granted. And I think that's one of the big things, because even though my wife has good insurance, with me not working and put me on there, it's going to bump it up more. So it's going to take more money away from the family as far as income. So until I can find a job or something like that. But yeah, that I think benefits are one of the main things that people just take for granted and they don't realize until it's gone.
Yeah. And wrap up here, last question. One small success story for Muncie and Delaware County here is the Bravini plant moving here. And that's part of the new green job creations that Obama's pushing. And, you know, this certainly is no replacement to BorgWarner or GM, you know, but I think we're going to live in a future where it's about small success stories.
Right.
You know, and what do you think about that, this plant coming in here? And just start off with, we've heard that there's a wind turbine plant coming into Muncie to have some job creation, and then go into your thoughts about that.
For Muncie to be able to get a shot in the arm as far as the Bravini factory, I've been hearing a lot about that coming in and creating some jobs, maybe 400 jobs. It don't sound like a whole lot, but it's a start. And a lot of it has to be based on when factories come in like that and they see there's a good job base there where people are really good workers and stuff, it kind of encourages other businesses to come in. And for it to be a success story, I think too that they know that there's people here needing jobs and will be dedicated to work. I mean, they, you know, on their hiring and stuff. I think it's a good thing, especially with our president on the how do you say that, the green thing there. But anyhow, yeah, the green industry. I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to work. You know, first thing people think about is what about, is it going to be union, non-union? I think, you know, we need to just get things here in the door, so to speak, kind of get them in here and get to work. And once, you know, if the Free Choice Act goes through, which I'm hoping, fine. If it don't go through, oh well. But unions will always try to organize. So eventually those plants will be touched or approached on trying to organize. The thing I think would happen is that it's a combination of both. I want to say that the unions had a little fault in it. I want to definitely say that the companies have fault in it. When you got CEOs making millions and millions of dollars, and they're trying to say that they can't afford to pay workers decent work wage, livable wages, I don't understand that one. I really have a problem with that one. Even in our case with BorgWarner, our CEO right now, Tim Manganello, if he was to get fired today, they have to pay him $37 million just because they fired him, not already talking about what he's already making. So for them to blame the unions for reasons they can't afford to give people living wages is just kind of sad when you look at it. So, and that's all unions want. They just try to create livable wage jobs. You can create all the $9 an hour jobs you want, $10 an hour, but can't nobody live on them. I mean, you can stand up there as our governor does and says, I brought in 100,000 jobs, but what are they paying? What are the benefits? And that's the thing. That's what unions are about. What are you getting paid? Or can you live on that? What are your benefits? Are you getting any health care? That's what unions are about. But I think, I do think that that's going to be a good thing for Bravini to come in, and hopefully it'll encourage other small manufacturing jobs to come in. I mean, whether we go green air or green, whatever that is, I mess up names all the time. But it doesn't matter. When you're trying to create jobs, you have to start small and build big. I mean, who's to not say that that plant ends up having to grow? I mean, you just never know. If the business gets that good, it can get up to 1,000 workers. We don't know. But it would be a good shot in the arm, I think.
Okay. Did you want to do some hand close-ups real quick? Just talk to me in general. He's going to do a little hand close-ups. You have a way of talking with your hands that we like.
Oh, no, I can't help it.
Like
I'm sorry.
No. So maybe tell me a little bit about these guys that you went out for breakfast with the day of, and fishing buddies. You guys are going to go together. Tell me a little bit about your guys' feelings as a group, I guess. Were you all there a long time?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, in that group, I would be the youngest. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm the youngest as far as that group on seniority. So, yeah, we've been there. I mean, they've been there long. 27, 28 years. One of them been there 36. Yeah. So, real good guys. Real good guys. I went to school with one, Johnny Reasons. We graduated the same year from Southside High School, so I've been knowing him for a long time. Yeah, a long time. And the other two, I got to know real well and got along with real well. Matter of fact, the other two are the fishing guys. We're gonna wait here probably mid-May or so, get together and go fishing. Yep. Yeah, they're real good. Joe himself, he's been helping me a lot with my computers. He's very sharp on computers. He's a skilled tradesman and real sharp on computers, but he's helped me a lot on my computers. So we get along real well.
That's for you picking up and learning computers, learning more about it.
I'm and that's another thing. I don't know. That's why I'm kind of want to wait and see. I'm really looking for that program out there that I can go to school for, where maybe in the medical field, but working on the computers that they deal with out there. And man, in the medical field, they got computers galore. So, and that's kind of what I'm really leaning for, because I really like computers. I like electronical stuff. I don't know what it is about it. It just fascinates me. Like working with my hands. Entertainment centers and stuff like that. That's why I was kind of leaning towards the EST program, which is the electronic system technician. Now, how can I remember those initials? I can't remember TRA and TAA. But anyway, yeah, I'm kind of looking at that, and and see where that goes. I really want to do that. That's kind of stuff. That way I'm really working at something that I like doing. And for the first time in my life in over 30 years, you know, I've been working and blessed that I had a job. Thank God I had a job. But to work at a job that you like doing, regardless of how much it's paying you, not regardless, but you want to be able to live on it.
Yeah.
But to be able to work at a job that you really like, oh, I'll be ecstatic. I'd be ecstatic.
Did you want to get any more? Is that good?
A little bit more.
Okay. I can tell just listening to you talk about computers, you light up.
I like
a
it.
bit.
Yeah, my wife and stuff, the kids and everybody's like, Dad, can we get on the computer now? Can we get on it now? I'm like, wait a minute, I ain't got this part done, you know. And I'm always trying to tweak them or add another software or something. And just last night, I went and got a DVD burner. And the difference in this burner is I can burn images on the other side of it, you know, which I think is pretty neat. So I hadn't had a chance to do it yet because it's they give you one sample CD, and it was a CD, and I was thinking it was a DVD. So you had to go buy these special blanks to burn on. I thought you could just burn on any of them, you know. So I'm learning, you know. I just learned stuff like that, but yeah, I can't wait. Try it. It's another toy. I call them toys, but it does help you. When I do stuff for my church or any kind of organizations, I burn stuff and I'm able to put that special label on there that no one else has because I designed it. I kind of like that, yeah. Nothing that you can, you know, they got the kind of labels now where you can kind of stick them on there. Well, when you start putting them in those players and that edge gets caught, now you got a CD caught, you know. So that burning that image in there, you never had to worry about that. I thought that was pretty neat, so.
Okay. I think a subject we'll touch on when I come back and interview you and your wife together is church and community and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So that's something you can kind of let her know. We'll talk about, you know, the family aspect, her opinions of this, you know, how she now works for the largest employer in the Delaware County.
Yeah, she definitely does. Big shift.
And how you guys have kind of used and maybe leaned on your faith through
Big
this
time.
part right now. So those will be some subjects we'll talk about when I come out. We'll schedule that maybe next week or whenever, sometime when it's convenient for her and she feels comfortable.
Okay.